Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Ridiculously Easy Security Awareness Training in Action. Today's event is brought to you by KnowBe4 and produced by Actual Tech Media. You received an invitation to this event because you indicated on a recent Actual Tech Media MegaCast or EcoCast event that you would like to see a demo of the KnowBe4 Security Awareness Training solution, and that's why you're here. I'm excited to introduce today's expert. That is Mr. Erich Kron, Security Awareness Advocate at KnowBe4. Erich, thank you so much for being on the event today.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, I know this is going to be a fast-paced, demo-focused event. Hopefully, we'll answer everyone's questions throughout the demo and the presentation. But if not, we'll be doing some dedicated Q&A at the end of the event. I think that's all I have. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Erich. Take it away.
No problem. I appreciate it very much. My goal here is to run about 30 minutes on this webinar. Just kind of keep it nice and tidy like that. Again, we are open for questions that you have. Please feel free to submit them. So without further ado, let's move toward this. First of all, a little bit about me. My name is Erich Kron. I am, as was mentioned, a security awareness advocate here at KnowBe4. And what does that mean? Well, it actually means I get to go around. I talk about the problem that we have in cybersecurity these days. It's human related. I talk a lot about ransomware. I talk a lot about business email compromise, et cetera, et cetera. I am a security practitioner. Been doing this since back in the 1990s, actually, is when I got started in this. I was the security manager for the 2nd Regional Cyber Center Western Hemisphere for the U.S. Army. And if you have a CISSP, I also did item writing for that and was the Director of Member Relations and Services there for quite some time. So all things said and done, I've been doing this for a lot of years. One of the things that really got me is watching how the humans have been exploited pretty much since I got started in the industry, right? Phishing's been a thing from the old Nigerian print scams to what it is we're facing today. And so my passion is really about trying to head off the issues that we see from that side of things, right? And, having built my own awareness programs in the past and done stuff like that, I'm really honored to be here with KnowBe4. And speaking of KnowBe4, we're out of the Tampa Bay area in Florida here. Fantastic weather. I cannot disagree with that. We are the world's most popular security awareness training program, along with the simulated phishing piece. And I think we're right a little bit over 31,000 customers right now. So we have a lot of experience of looking at this and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And some of what I'm going to be doing as I'm going through the platform here is going to be talking about the things that work and how to make them most effective. Now, obviously, we're going to show the platform, but I also want you to understand that a lot of things I share with you, whether you're using our platform or not, are going to be relevant just in your training programs and things like that. Now, as a security guy, I've heard this throughout my entire career, and that is you can't train users. There's some various other styles of saying that aren't quite so kind. I think we all know where that comes from, but I really, really believe that is a misconception. You can train your users. It's a matter of us doing it the right way. And that's what we'll get into. We did this study here. This was 9 million users and about 18,000 organizations. Average click rate, the baseline click rate, is 30%. After about 3 months, that's 90 days, which is essentially, getting your training out there and 1 or 2 of the simulated exercises. That's actually already fallen to 15%. That's pretty significant. You can cut that risk in half in about 90 days. And that's a big deal. Ultimately, though, these same users a year later were down to a 2% click rate. Now, one thing to notice on here is that 2% is actually clicking on tougher emails than they generally start out with on the baseline. I'm not going to lie, that 30% click rate there is usually a pretty easy to spot phishing email if you know what you're doing. If we started them off with the stuff you're hitting them at over there at the 2%, you're probably going to even see higher numbers. Now, the reason I do harp on this is, yes, you can train users. It just takes a little bit of a little bit of effort in order to do that. So having said that, if you give me just a second here, I'm going to move over to our dashboard and I'm going to show you what things look like. This is really what we want to get started on here. This is kind of the meat of why you're here. So you should be seeing our dashboard right now. What I love about our dashboard is it's actually very, very simple. And it's easy to manage. So looking here right away, this is just an overall organization risk score. This number here, this 10.7, is actually created from our virtual risk officer. I really like this. This is taking an AI approach to this, and I know AI is very kind of overused in our industry right now, but I like what we've done here. And what AI is very good at, it's not good at everything, but it is very good at spotting trends. It's very good at making assumptions based on past behaviors and looking at human behavior, things like that. And that's what this score is based off of. So this is an overall risk score, and we'll talk a little bit about how that plays into when we start looking at the human sides, the individuals here, and you'll see how that plays into here. But basically, this is giving you a baseline of where you are. You can see, you can go back through here, your risk score, and you can look at these things through time. Now, I will tell you, don't get too hung up on these numbers specifically. This is generated data for us. This is a demo account. This is not real customer information, right? We kind of don't want to put that out there. So it's important to understand that some of these numbers you may look at and go, wow, that looks a little odd. If you do have a question, let me know, because there are some things that can be a little bit confusing in here if you don't know what it means. For example, click rates can be over 100% for an email. What that means is an individual got an email that has a link in it, and that leads to a place where they can enter credentials. That is 2 failures for 1 email. That's why that works out. So again, got any questions, let me know. But this is the basic dashboard, right? You're looking at your risk score. You're trying to keep an eye on that. The idea, obviously, is to have a downward trend on that. This is actually a summary of your phishing security tests, the simulated phishing tests over the last 6 months. You can compare this over here to industry phish prone percentages as well. So based on the different industries that you were in, you can compare it to those here, as well as company size and the maturity, right? So you can change this up a little bit. I really like the fact that it gives you that to compare to other people in your industry. That always gives you kind of a way to look at that and go, you know what, we can do more, or for some reason we're not getting to where we are. This piece here talks about the phish alert button. Big fan of that. When you train people to look for phishing tests, the other thing you really want to do in this is actually teach them how to report the emails. Big fan of that. We have a phish alert button. This is actually a free tool. You don't have to be a customer to use it, but it allows the user to hit a button. It wraps up the email and sends it off to a place that you want it. If you're using our platform, obviously, this kind of breaks in and it gives you some of the reporting statistics that go along with it. You can see ones that are simulated reporting. And what I like about it is if it's a simulated attack we've sent to somebody, they can click on that button. When they go to report it, it says, congratulations, you spotted a phishing email. It's a positive reinforcement piece there. This also does the non-simulated reported. In other words, these are potentially real phishing emails or something that was not sent through our platform. So it's good information here, good to look at. And then moving down here, we also have, this is our training campaigns. Again, this is all a dashboard, very, very simple to look at, get some basic ideas. So we're going to drill down a little bit. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the users, because you have to get users into the platform before you can do much with them. We have a number of different ways to do that. This is our user group, user listing right here. You can import users through a CSV. If you'd like, you can do it individually if you like. My favorite thing to do here, honestly, is Active Directory sync. This will do a one-way LDAP sync with your Active Directory. You can control what information gets pulled down, but you can synchronize this with your Active Directory, including groups, users, etc., however much information you want. Now, doing the groups obviously makes it easier to assign things. You'll see where that comes into play a little bit later. But this is a great, great feature. that I love. We added this a couple years ago. I was thrilled to see this added because it made it so much easier than exporting, say, a CSV list and then importing, and you can have it run at regular intervals to keep this updated. So you remove somebody from a group in Active Directory or move them to another group, it is automatically synced into the platform. Makes it a lot easier to work with that. We also have some security roles here. You can give different people roles on what they can do, be able to modify these templates, et cetera. Great little feature here. Now moving into the users, I'm going to show you real quick the kind of information we do, and we use a person named Fritz here as our punching bag. Let's see if I spelled that right, and I did. Fritz is our punching bag. He's got a 66.3% click rate, or actually the risk score from the virtual risk officer. I'm sorry, not necessarily the click rate, but you can see what drives into that. He has a very, very high click rate. There we go. 75% click rate. That's his phish prone percentage. Now, if you look back up here, I was telling you about there's an AI component to this. And what the AI looks at when it figures this risk score is a number of different things. When they've had training, there are different behaviors their job function can play in, because, hey, a CEO is going to present more risk if they're phished than, say, a receptionist in a lot of cases. Exposure is pulled from whether or not their email address is available on the web. We actually look at breach information and pull that in. We know that the bad guys obviously gather up these email addresses from breaches, turn around, and that's what they use to do attacks in a lot of cases. So the exposure comes into it, and you can assign a booster score to actually improve that if you need to increase that as well. Say you know this person is a higher risk because of some other things, you can actually tie that in there. So that's a very nice little piece to do that. Now, this personal risk score ends up being consolidated for all of your users into the risk score, the organizational risk score I showed you in the beginning. You can also tie this into different groups, like, say, accounting departments, things like that, and you can use that to drive toward doing your training in the areas where it matters the most. So you can see here, you can look at all the past risk scores, you can take a look at that. We can also look at what it is Fritz has been doing here. So to go back here, this is what I was talking about just now. The spider web is all of those different behaviors, and this is the risk score. Again, you can kind of move along here. You can see all of the stuff that's gone on in the past and the personal phish prone percentage for Fritz. Now, this section is kind of nice. It actually comes from a lot of this here. This is the events timeline for Fritz, and I'm going to scroll down quickly to the bottom here. You can see from the beginning, we know that his email is in security, in a security breach. Remember, I talked a little bit about that, where we see that. You can see where he's received emails, he's clicked on them, et cetera, et cetera. You can get a very, very defined history of what Fritz has been up to throughout this. Now, moving up to the top again here, you'll see this is all tied together in here. So we can see there was an email sent to Fritz. He clicked on the email. There was a little attachment that we can do. I'm not going to get too much into that, but it looks at plugins. But you can see Fritz here clicked an email also and entered data. Remember, we have templates that make it look like they're phishing for credentials. So they entered data in that. Here he opened an attachment and enabled a macro. Always a bad issue, right? We know that that's a problem. So you can see what they've been doing on an individual level. You can even come in over here and pull up the actual email that they clicked on in there. So it gives you a lot of great information. If someone comes back and say, I didn't click on that. Well, actually, yes, you did. Here's what it showed you. So you can get a lot of good information on the users from that. Now, the next step with users after you've got them imported is to train them. So we're going to come over here to the training piece here. And you're going to look at the different campaigns that are here. We do phishing and training through campaigns. Now, your training campaigns are going to be based on the different things that you have selected from the mod store. Now, the mod store is where we go to look at all the different options. Let me show you that here real quick. This is different things that you can assign for users. Now, this is going to vary with the content types and what's available on your tier, on your level of training content, but you can see here, like, for example, These are 8-minute video modules that we're just on here with Inside Man. This is just kind of showing you the featured content here. But you can limit this stuff down here. You can say, I only want training modules, I only want games, I want video modules, assessments. We even include posters and artwork to be able to print up to put in your organization around there that tie into these training campaigns. These are the recommended, obviously. Topic-wise, you can break it down by attack vectors. You can break it down by compliance pieces if you need HIPAA training. We even include a lot of HR information in here, and of course, popular topics as well. So you can really limit it down here. There are a lot of different pieces of training material available. But as you see down here, you can select these and then you would say add to account. It's then going to show up for the training campaign. So this is where you pick that stuff to add to there. And then back in the training campaigns, let's say I want to train some of my users. I'm going to create a campaign here. I'm just going to call this one test because I'm terribly original on names like that. We're going to tell it when to start the campaign, and we're going to tell it when to end it. Now, some of these campaigns you may want to run for a certain time frame, a relative duration. Some of them you may want no end date, and I'll tell you where that can work in is if you have one that's an initial training for all of your users, that's what you're going to select. And let's say we're setting this up for all of our new users, right? What I would do is I would pull the content from here, and you get to choose all the different things, like I said, that you've added from the mod store. You know, just for grins, let's pick one of these, Captain Awareness. Let's say we're going to train everyone on mobile devices, and then possibly just have them do an assessment here. So that being done, it's going to assign these people this. Now, the groups that we're going to use is going to be of the groups that we have chosen. Now, some of these can be synced in through Active Directory, like I said. Some can be ones that you automatically do. In addition, we have things like the clickers group, which I'll talk about here in a moment, where when people click on an email, you can have them automatically added to this group, which will assign them remedial training. But let's just say we want to do all users here. What's going to happen here is when a user is added to Active Directory, they're synced in, they get added to this all users group, it is automatically then going to assign this training here. There's a lot of easy ways you can do this. You can also have, when people have completed their training, you can add them to other groups. You can remove them from certain groups. There's a ton that you can do, and all you have to do now is hit Create Campaign, and now your training campaign is running. You can see that right here. Just for grins here, let's take a look at a campaign here. This is what the campaign shows you, who's completed it, who's not, the training activity that's gone into place. You can break it down by the users here and see who started, who's completed. You can do a CSV, you can do reporting on all of these sorts of things as well. So you can get a real quick bird's eye view of how your training works. Now, once the training is done, obviously, now we're going to do something. We're going to move into the phishing, because you've trained them how to spot phishing emails. Now you want to do simulated phishing tests to kind of tie that all together. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to create a phishing campaign. Your phishing campaign is going to come here. Again, I'm very creative, so I'm going to name it test. I'm going to say, in this case, we're going to send it to all users, although I can say specific groups. Let's say our accounting group, we want to send very specific ones that are going to be impacting them, or HR groups, you know, they get a lot of those, the W-2 fraud type emails, or looking for information like that. Just depends on what you want to do. But with all users here, we're going to do that. We're going to set this up now to do it. Let's do it every 2 weeks. Now, what we found in here is it's best to do simulated phishing attacks at least monthly. That's where your best bang for the buck is. If you do it, say, quarterly, which I've heard some people say, oh, well, that's all I can do. We do find that the effectiveness of the simulated phishing part does drop off. So we recommend at least monthly, but here I'm going to do it every 2 weeks. We're going to start at this date, this time, And what I want to do is I want to spread it out. Let's see, I'm going to spread it out across 5 business days. Now, what this means is not everybody is going to get the same email at the same time. You don't want them all to land in the inboxes all at once. That's something that that we found is very useful, is to have it spread out. It keeps one person from popping up and going, hey, don't click on the email they just sent. It's one of the simulated ones, right? And the idea is to get people to learn how to spot it themselves. Now I can come in here and I can select some categories, current events of the week. We have automatic ones like that. We have scam of the week, which is not a phishing test. You can actually use this to set it up as informational stuff that goes out to people, and we automatically update it. It goes out automatically to your folks and says, hey, this is what we're seeing recently. So there's a lot of neat ways to do that. But we're going to choose some banking and finance ones. Let's say we're going to do some current events as well. So what it'll do is it'll automatically now set up to do that. You can limit it by difficulty rating. If you first get started and your people are clicking on everything, you may not want to include all of the really tough ones, because that may frustrate them. So you find where it is, and then as they get better, you increase the difficulty ratings that you want to include. Also, you can choose your phishing domains. This is where when they hover over something, it tells them where it's going to take them. It's obviously the big sign that they should do when they highlight things. And so if they highlight over a link in the phishing email and it says, do not click on this link, you're hoping that they get the point. But mostly I recommend that people use that random. The landing pages are where it takes them if they click it, and I'll show you what those look like. You can teach people from here. And then finally, add clickers to, like I said, clickers group. You don't have to do this, but I love having the clicker group set up where if somebody clicks on an email, they automatically get, say, a 10-minute remedial training assigned to them. There's got to be some drawbacks to accidentally clicking on these, and that's one of the big ones here. Now, full random, what that means is a random email to a random user. So the way we have this set up is it's going to do a random email to a random user at a random time across 5 business days. It's that simple to set that up. If they click on it, it's going to take them to a default landing page for that template, and it's going to automatically add them to the clickers group. Now, at the end of this, we can have it send an email report after each phishing security test, and we can just hit create campaign, and it's going to start, and now it's going to run 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, across 5 business days, and it's going to automatically kick off every 2 weeks. You don't have to click anything. You do nothing, and it just runs. So that's how this works. It's a great way to test your people in an automatic basis, and it's ongoing. Now, when you look at what's going on for the results here, you can see the failures within time after they're sent. You can see the failures by day. You can actually see where people were failing as well, which is kind of an interesting touch to do there too. But you can get your phish prone percentage. You can also look at the individuals and how they did on this. So we can see what was delivered, what was opened, how many clicked on it. There's actually ways to track if somebody replies. For example, CEO fraud starts off very commonly with something simple like, hey, did you get my email this morning? Or are you in the office? So you can actually track if they reply to that and say, yes, sir, ma'am, I'm here, willing to help, whatever, because you may want to see if those are being done like that, right? The odds, what you want them to do is you want them to be able to spot it and report it, not reply to it. But there's a lot that you can do in this just to see these sorts of things. Now, back to the phishing piece, I want to show you these landing pages. When they click on things, this is what's going to end up coming up. You can assign these or they're automatically done. The ones that I really like, it's in the platinum or diamond ones. This is the social engineering indicators. I really, really like this page because what it does is when a person clicks on something, it actually pops up this, oops, you clicked on it. And then it takes the actual email that they received. And there are these social engineering indicators that are in there, like things that they should have spotted. The address is different. Sense of urgency, keep an eye on that, et cetera, et cetera. Now you can customize these in any way, shape, or form that you choose to do. And so these are very, very powerful to teach people at the point of failure what it is they could have done a little bit better. So I really like these SEI pages, but there's a lot of them here. The generic ones are just basically, oops, you kind of messed up. Think about it, right? Those are included at all levels. It just depends on what you want to get out of it. Now, the other thing you can end up doing with these as well is you can point them to ones where it's actually looking like login pages as well. So let me show you one of those real quick. Here, they're thinking they're putting it in. Now, we don't capture the information that they put in, but we do mark, again, if they enter data. So that's a very important key right there. You can try to drive people through credential phishes just like the bad guys do. And then if you do it, it ends up taking you to one of the other basic ones like that. So that's kind of a real quick way to look at that. Now, email templates is another one. We currently have an absolute ton of them in there. Over 4,000 right now, I think, is where we're at. These are the ones that you will choose what it is that's going to go out to them. Remember, these are not PSTs. This is just the scam of the week. In other words, not a phishing security test, but you can break it down into the business ones. You can see all of these different ones, again, rated by difficulty level. They end up looking, something like this. Now, what's nice about these is any of these at all, if you want to change them, you can actually come in here and you can modify anything you want within these messages. So if, say, numbers are a little bit higher than you may want in one of the credit card ones, you can change those in here. You can put different placeholders in here, like pulling in their names. You can even put in their manager name. So for example, you can have one that says, hey, I wanted you to take a look at this document so-and-so, and you enter their manager name. And if it's synced into the system, it'll say, Bill wanted you to take a look at this for me. That's a very great way to do a phish, and it's something that the bad guys are actually using out there because it's not hard to find an org chart on people, right? So there's creative ways that you can do that. This is where you assign the default landing page for it, the domain that it would go on, and the difficulty levels. You can also attach different types of files here if you want to see if people are going to fall for enabling macros and such. So again, very, very customizable. When you do one of these customizations and you save it, it actually goes into a special spot where you can pull from your own customized ones, and it leaves this one in here if you ever want to come back and use it as is. So as you can see, there are a lot of different ones in here. We have them in a lot of different languages as well. And they're also regionalized. So it's not just American companies. For example, it is actually companies based on, within those organizations as well. Commonwealth Bank, Bank of America isn't going to work so well in a Chinese language most of the time, right? So that's the gist of what happens here with the phishing piece. Again, the idea behind phishing is to teach people how to, or give them a chance to practice what they learned in the other environments. Okay, so in training, that's kind of an important thing to do. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to switch back real quick, and we are going to just kind of wrap this up and take some questions here as well. So let me see here. Let me pop back over to my screen. Let me minimize this down, and there we go. That was the important piece, is arming your organization. Now, like I said, the way that we're doing this, the idea behind this is really then to focus on changing behaviors. We're not trying to teach just a single lesson here. It's about changing behaviors. We have kind of a 4-step method here. Get a baseline. We can do that for free if you're interested. Then you train them. Then you phish them, like I said in there. Then you watch those results. As they get better, you up that difficulty level that I talked about. And this is how we continue to drive it down to that 2% range. Remember in the beginning, I said that the emails that they click on at 2% are tougher than the beginning and the baseline ones. That's because we're constantly running through that and updating that level there. I do want to bring this to mind too. There are different ways to train people. This is a series that we've done. It's called Inside Man. We're looking at releasing a second season here very soon. This is a different way to do it. It's actually storytelling, where in the end they kind of wrap up and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't give your badge to just anyone. And this is broken down into, it's 12 episodes, so it's designed to go out like once a month. but it keeps people interested in the story. And instead of doing training once per year, this is a much better way to kind of trickle feed this. Also, when you're training people, one of the key things that I like to teach people is to look for the red flags. They don't need to be technical. You're not trying to make them, like, our training is not trying to make them technical. We're not breaking down email headers per se. We're looking at, if you hover over the from, does it go back to where it seems to? So that's kind of what we're driving at here. This is a very important step here, is to remember we're not trying to make them technical, but there are red flags in almost every phishing email that you see out there. So that being said, I know we're running right around 30 minutes now. I want to take this time to go into some questions if there are any questions out there. And thank you for this. I am always available if you want to reach out to me or follow me on Twitter. Always happy to discuss this sort of thing as well. So that being said, do we have any questions out here?
Absolutely, Eric. Yeah, we do. Great demo, by the way. Great presentation. And I want to give you, kudos for always putting your email address, your Twitter name out there. You and all the other security awareness advocates that know before always do a great job of that. Just always being available, ready to educate anyone and answer questions as best you can around security and ransomware. So that's really cool and really unique in my opinion. So let's see, first question that came in, they're asking about, of course, you have probably heard this one before. What's the cost of the subscription? How does this break down?
Yep. So the cost of this is really, it's per user per year. Okay, so it's like a per seat per year. Let me pull this up real quick. We actually publish our pricing here. So let me see. Let's see. You should see the pricing coming up there. There we go. So this is our pricing page. It's online. Okay. We have different levels of training content. I mentioned that in there, depending on what you need. These are the different training modules, how many videos are available at the different tiers. Now, we partner with a lot of third-party organizations actually to provide content for this, and that's why obviously the price is going to change a little bit of tier. We have to license it through them, et cetera, et cetera. We find that the diamond tier is our most popular. It gives you pretty much all of these things here. I didn't get into it because there just isn't enough time. We do USB drive tests. We do voice phishing, as a matter of fact, as well. So you get phone calls to go along with that. There's lots of other things in here. And I recommend, if you're interested in some of these, get one of the guys to give you an actual demo, or one of the people to give you a demo on this. And then you can kind of look at the things that are specific to you. They'll do it one-on-one, or you with a group of people as well. But this gives you an idea of the different tiers. And then our pricing is right here. This is our MSRP. The diamond is obviously our most popular. It gives you the most things. So this is per user per year, just roughly. Now, PhishER is another product that we own. It works with that Phish alert button if you wanted to use it. And let's say you have a lot of users that are submitting stuff all the time. PhishER is a product that will help deal with all of that. You can set up different rooms. You can look at different reported phishes. You can automatically send things to VirusTotal, et cetera, et cetera. So that's an add-on piece. I just wanted to call that out since this is over here as well. But this is our pricing. This is our retail pricing. One of the things I want to point out is up here, this piece right here. This is the MSRP pricing per seat. This is the PhishER I was talking about here. So moving back up here, I do want to point this out. 3-year contracts actually give a great discount. Don't forget to ask about that if you're looking along those lines. So that being said, any other questions out there for this?
Could you scroll down a little bit actually on that page?
Sure
Because
can.
one of the things that I don't always remember, and I bet a lot of the folks watching don't realize, is that KnowBe4 does so much. I mean, you see the different tiers there and
Yeah.
all the different advanced features, the USB drive testing, APIs, vishing, security tests, all these different things. There's a lot more to it than just video training and email.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I can barely touch on what we're talking about here when I do a platform demo like this in 30 minutes. There's just so much that it does, and this is why I recommend, again, get somebody to do a demo with you, and they'll be able to show you exactly what you're interested in. You can again get to this page. You see the URL right up there. It gives you all of this stuff here, and there's information obviously about this on the different levels. But it always amazes me, really, all of the things that we do. The USB drive tests are always fun. People really like that. But yeah, it's pretty amazing the kind of stuff that we put together here. So yeah, we do more than just training and phishing. There's a lot more about it.
Okay, okay, very cool. Let's see, another question. How often should we be phishing our users, and is there a limit? I mean, I'm sure you don't want to email your people every day. They're just going to get immune to it.
Yeah,
But what do you recommend?
absolutely. You don't want to do it every day. However, it is important that that when you do your phishing, you do it more often than once a month. Like I said, that is a big deal when it comes to that. We find that what happens is when you do the simulated phishing, it keeps it kind of front of their mind. They're always going, "Oh, I wonder if this is one of those ones that they're sending," right? Now, there is a level where people can get inundated with it, and people have their jobs to do in the middle of all this, right? It'd be great if we could just bring them in and test them all the time, but that's not going to happen. Your company culture is going to have a lot to do with that, your organizational culture. And what I find is people build up to it to where it becomes just the norm. It takes a split second. I mean, we test ourselves. We eat our own dog food here pretty heavily, right? So we test ourselves on a very frequent basis. And you get to the point you're like, okay, yep, there you go. Hover the link. I know what it is. Bam, report it. You move on. It takes a couple seconds, and we're all very aware of it and understand the value that it brings. So you have to work towards that. But absolutely, once a month or less is what I want to shoot for.
Okay, okay, good advice. And then another question they're asking, how's the training hosted?
Yeah, so this is all hosted. It's AWS hosted. It's software as a service. This is on-demand online training, and then the platform as well. So we have different AWS instances in different countries. If you're looking at international sides there for hosting, say GDPR related stuff, we've kind of covered all of that. So no on-prem stuff. This is all in the cloud. Yay, cloud.
That's right. That's right. And I know a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of security training out there, but to me, the silver bullet with know before is the automated phishing.
Yeah, it ties everything together. I like to think of the phishing piece as this. You go to a class, you have an instructor teach some things, and you sit down and you do the lab, right? I always learn more from the lab side of things, actually doing the hands-on piece of it, than I do just watching the training go by. And that's kind of what the simulated phishing is. It's giving them a chance to practice that in a fail-safe environment, right? I'd much rather have them test themselves on something that is going to pop up a screen and say, oop, you shouldn't have done that, than actually kick off some of the bad things that are happening these days.
Absolutely. And then to me, it's almost like that lab instructor, like that instructor coming back, popping in your office once a month and asking you a question, right? Giving you a pop quiz kind of thing. To me, that's kind of what the automated phishing does. So it constantly reinforces, your knowledge, your awareness. And to me, that's what's so
Absolutely.
powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. It keeps it in your mind. You know you're going to be tested. And that's something I recommend. Don't do this as a surprise. Let everyone know, hey, by the way, we're going to train you on this stuff, and then you're going to be tested. We're doing this because it's such a big deal, and we see organizations have to close their doors about it. You want to tell them it's coming, and then they're always going to be trying to remember it. They're going to pay more attention in the training. It is absolutely key when it comes to the training to do the simulated phishing.
Very nice. Very nice. Let's see. Do you see any other questions in the queue there that we have time to cover today?
Let's see. How is the phishing training reported to the IT security department to avoid false alarms? I assume this is related to reporting the simulated phishing emails. Um, Essentially, what you're going to do is, as you get these reporting things come in, I've seen organizations do it in a myriad of different ways. A lot of times they'll end up sending it to the SOC or the security department. I've actually seen people tie this into their SIM, where if they get a certain number of emails reported with the same, say, subject line in a certain time, it'll pop an alert, which I really love doing automated stuff like that. But what you're going to want to do is if you're getting a lot of false alerts, and what I see mostly in false alerts is people get confused between what's phishing and what's spam. So what I recommend is if you're getting a lot of false alarms like that, that means you're probably going to have a few of your users that are going to be driving most of that. A little bit of remedial training or some focused training on, hey, this is the difference between spam and an actual phishing attack. You want to just delete the spam, the junk mail that comes in that's trying to sell you something, but it's better to report the stuff that's trying to get you to do something that's a problem, right? So yeah, you may have to do a little bit of that, but I find that that clears up pretty quickly once the people are taught the difference between spam and phishing.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. That's an important differentiation there
Yeah.
between the two. Let's see, there's another question here. What about trial or evaluation? How does that work with Know Before?
Yeah, obviously we can run you through the demo. That's the key there. I don't know that we do a lot in the proof of concept side of things, mostly because, frankly, it's very simple to do. There's not a lot of integration that needs to happen. That's typically the part of proof of concepts. And if you have questions about, say, your industry and how this works within your industry, the people can talk about that. We have all of those numbers together for the different industries. So we don't do a lot of proof of concepts unless it's a very, very large enterprise sort of deal where you want to see maybe how it's going to work here as opposed to overseas, things like that. So that's something that you really need to take up specifically with a sales rep to understand that, because I don't know where all the cutoffs are with respect to that.
Okay. And I mean, you all offer so many different metrics to help really prove the solution. I feel like,
Oh
from
yeah,
other customers, the phishing percent, has gone down, and people can see that, and they can see that, if they give the solution a try for, even a few months, I'm sure they'll start to see immediate results or short-term results. I would think happen pretty quickly.
well, and we're the leader in the Magic Quadrant. You don't get that way by having something that's not, put together well. And if you look even at Gartner, in the peer reviews section, and you look at the reviews that users actually give us, I love seeing the peer reviews section there. You'll see that people are very happy with the product. I've been doing this since 2016, and I'm on the road all the time at different conferences. I think in the times that I've been out there, I'll be honest, I've had two customers or two people that have come up to me and said, you know what, I'm not really feeling like I'm getting what we should. And frankly, what that ended up boiling down to was they were not following best practices. They were maybe phishing once a quarter or every 6 months. And I'm telling you, that is the key difference, is getting it down to at least once a month. But other than that, everyone can, we love you. We love what you do. You don't get that way by offering something that frankly doesn't cut the mustard.
Absolutely, yeah. Whenever you present on our very large events with, hundreds and hundreds of people on there, there are always many existing Know Before customers who step forward and say, "We love the product. We're using it today. It's helped so much." So that's always great to see.
Absolutely.
All right, well, Eric, I'm afraid that's all the time we have today in our event presentation window here, but it's been really great having you on. Always great to chat with you. Love the demo. Thank you so much.
All right. I'm always happy to be here. Again, feel free to reach out to me at any time.
For more information, visit knowbefore.com. Check out the solution for yourself. Eric's got his contact info up there. Email sales@knowbefore.com and see the solution for yourself. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on today's event. Hope you learned a lot. Have a great day.